Good evening, everyone. My name is David Grant, and I'm going to call to order our UBI Task Force meeting of December 6th. This is a special meeting, and it's now 6:08 p.m. So when I call your name, just please say here for the record. Carolyn Anderson.
Here.
Colleen Bennett.
Here.
Christine Caruso.
Here.
Amanda Detmer.
Here.
Stephen Palmer. Gina Rosich.
Here.
And Stephen Ross.
Here.
Great. And I do have some time allocated for public comment. I don't see anyone from the public on our meeting. However, if there is, this would be the time now to speak up. Seeing and hearing no one, let's go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of minutes from October 14th. In the email that I sent today, it's a 2-page draft. It's not meant to be a word for word, but I do think it captures the general sentiment of the meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to at least look over the minutes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented to the task force?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Gina. And is there a second?
Yes, Colleen.
Colleen, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Any discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and have a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion's approved and the minutes have been adopted. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is going to be the final report. So the way that this is going to work is at this point, the initial draft was available to the task force as of October 14th. So we've had now about a month and a half to review the report, add in our comments, put in sections, rearrange material. So tonight's meeting, we will not be doing anything major. Instead, what we're going to do is review the current language. And if there's any minor changes that we all want to make or things that should be added to help complement or provide additional context, that's how we're going to approach the review. So if you have anything that's major, still, I would recommend to email me that and we can discuss it. And keep in mind too, and this is for members of the public, that the task force voting and approving tonight's report does not mean that there won't be other opportunities to make changes. This report, once submitted to City Council, will then be most likely referred to a council committee. And at that point, members of the task force can then be in that committee meeting to discuss with council members specific items. And the report can be altered at that point as well. So if there's anything lingering, I just want to assure all of you, as well as members of the public, that even though this will be our final report from the task force, this may still be altered in the new year. Any questions about how we're approaching tonight?
No.
Great. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on my main screen and we'll take it section by section. See if I can make this work. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, great. So let's go ahead and have, we'll just rotate this out. And so Gina, can you read off this first section? And then we'll have a discussion. If it's approved, we'll go to the next section. Another task force member will read that section, and then we'll just do that back and forth until we get through all 7 pages.
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
Executive summary. On February 8th, 2021, the Hartford City Council passed a Universal Basic Income, UBI resolution, which authorized the creation of a UBI task force that would develop a UBI pilot program to target working single mothers and fathers. Per the resolution, the membership of this task force was appointed by the council president and includes community members and advocates, program managers, and academics/researchers, all of whom brought their breadth of expertise and experience to develop recommendations for the implementation of Hartford's UBI pilot program. See Appendix A. This report details the recommendations for the program. The report was developed over the course of 8 months through monthly official task force meetings and with working group meetings. This report includes input from all task force members and with the input from community members that stems from 2 public forums held in July and October 2021, as well as individual conversations between task force members and the public. The task force recommendations include suggestions for recruitment, inclusion and exclusion criteria, program implementation, and program evaluation. Of note, these recommendations are provided to assist the council in choosing whether to conduct the program as a randomized control trial or an observational study. Benefits and drawbacks to each format are presented. Justifications for all recommendations are provided.
All right, great, thank you. So is there anything that jumps out at people? Anything that you all recommend that we change, modify? Are we all pretty happy with this? Great. So let's go into introduction. This is a little bit of a longer one. So Christine, do you mind taking this one?
Sure. Okay, so introduction. Universal basic income, variously referred to as guaranteed income or basic income, is a type of cash transfer program. It is designed to raise the floor for household income, increase financial freedom, reduce income volatility, and streamline redistribution of funds to ensure a simpler and more dignified anti-poverty system than the current cluster of means-tested programs. Programs such as TANF, general assistance, SNAP benefits, and other safety net programs can be stigmatizing, demeaning, patronizing, and have costly oversight. Recipients must navigate compliance mandates that are often time-consuming and overly complicated, making it difficult to maintain the benefits they need to survive while also caring for their families. In regard to terminology, GI programs traditionally target a subgroup of the population with a supplemental unrestricted fund, whereas UBI programs provide unrestricted cash to all residents of a target area.
1 second, Christine. So let's go ahead and, because this one's a little bit longer, we'll take this paragraph. Can we do, instead of in regard to terminology, can we do in terms of terminology? It's a minor change, but I just think it makes the sentence flow a little easier.
That's fine.
That's fine.
You want to do track changes, David, or do we not need that?
I'm not sure. Does everyone want to do that? I don't think it's necessary because it's on the screen and everyone
Yeah,
can
I don't
see it.
think so. That's fine. I guess it's been recorded, so.
And yes, it's being recorded too. All right, so we'll take this paragraph by paragraph. If anything sticks out to you, please speak up. Go ahead, Christine.
In contrast, universal social insurance programs such as UBI, GI, BI eliminate stigma, and as a result, many people do not even associate them with anti-poverty intentions. A similar program is Social Security. These types of financial freedom programs, in combination with current safety net programs, offer the possibility of raising the financial floor for families on a local level and empowering them with decision-making in a variety of domains. The underlying philosophy is that recipients are in the best position to make decisions for themselves about how to spend those funds depending on the needs of their household at any given time. Further, poverty places many stressors on households, and being able to count on the arrival of a fixed monthly income supplement can reduce uncertainty and lead to substantially better outcomes across a variety of domains. Collectively, these benefits of financial freedom programs have the potential to improve recipients' economic security, labor productivity, and physical and mental health. A probable reason for these beneficial outcomes is likely due to reduced stress that accompanies financial freedom, though this relationship has not been well studied in the US.
Any questions, comments? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and move on to the next paragraph.
Great. Can you scroll up just a little bit? Awesome, thanks. Low income is associated with food insecurity and malnutrition, rent burden, spending 50% or more of income on housing, housing insecurity, domestic violence, and child abuse. It is also associated with poor medical outcomes and higher rates of child and adult mental health concerns, such as depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Children experiencing poverty are particularly vulnerable, as poverty has been shown to impact lifelong health by disrupting healthy brain and biological development. Furthermore, people face health disparities from a combination of limited access to healthcare, including both medical visits and medications, and inadequate healthcare. The CDC lists economic insecurity as one of the 5 domains of social determinants of health. Other social determinants of health include racism, sexism, and homophobia. Women, particularly women of color, as well as the LGBTQ+ individuals, have historically experienced systemic discrimination through unpaid labor and lack of access to opportunities in higher education, opportunities to obtain home or business loans, and discrimination in housing, healthcare, hiring, among other structural barriers. For all these reasons and others, financial freedom programs like UBI offer an excellent opportunity to disrupt the status quo for many underserved Hartford residents.
Great. Any questions, comments, or concerns with that paragraph? Okay, let's move on.
A wealth of evidence demonstrates this potential. Contemporary pilot programs such as California's SEED project that served as an inspiration for the Hartford proposal provides evidence-based research to this effect. The funds stabilize food security, reduce time scarcity, improve mental health, increase self-determination and time for self-care activities, as well as quality time with children. They also shifted employment patterns related to the ability to take internships, leave abusive jobs, and obtain new skills or professional licenses. The National League of Cities points out the cash transfer program recipients have greater freedom to make choices not only around the use of the funds themselves, but that all of these are associated with improved mental and physical health for both caregivers and their children.
Great, thank you very much. So any comments, questions, or concerns on that last paragraph? No? Okay, Amanda, can you take the Hartford?
Yes. According to the US Census Bureau, the median household income for residents in the city of Hartford in 2019 was $36,278. In terms of income rankings, Hartford ranked last among all cities, not only within Hartford County, but within the entire state of Connecticut. In examination by racial identity, Hispanic or Latinx households earned $28,000, while African American households earned $38,000, and white households $39,000. Roughly 25% of African American households, 38% of Hispanic or Latinx households, and 27% of white households in Hartford live below the poverty line. According to the United Way Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed ALICE report for 2018, 64% of Hartford residents live below what they describe as a survival budget, which would require households to have sufficient income to afford housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, among other basic necessities, and annual income more than 4 times that of the poverty line.
All right, great. So any questions, thoughts, comments, or concerns on
I
that
saw some while I was reading. We need to capitalize the E in employed.
Where's that?
By Alice, sorry, by Alice, the E for employed right before.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Alice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. Also, I think we should probably say the median annual household income for residents.
Yes,
Okay, where is that?
it's first
First
sentence.
sentence.
So the annual.
And then the
I
last
have,
is, oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I just had a minor comment, and it's, I don't have a strong position on it, but I see that we're using the term Latinx, and my understanding, or at least like the emerging discussion that I've been hearing, is Latinx is not used among the Spanish-speaking population because it's linguistically awkward to say in Spanish. And so people are returning to Latina, Latino, or a third alternative, which is Latin, ending with an E. And so I just wanted to observe that.
So actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Christine, because obviously working for the city, we have these kinds of conversations on a regular basis. I am okay with using Latin, as I've found that that's becoming more and more popular within traditional Mexican, conversations. Anyone else have any strong thoughts on it?
No, but I have a question, which is if it's according to the US Census Bureau, then what did the US Census Bureau use, and would we need to defer to that?
I would need to double check that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
I think I'm speaking more just from the community
Yeah,
perspective.
otherwise I've heard the same, Christine, and I'm totally fine with Latin or something else, but I've heard the same thing.
I mean, I think that the US Census Bureau uses Hispanic as like their baseline term. Or I think it's something along the lines of like, non-white, non-black type of term. And so if you don't fall or within those categories, you're this other thing, or identity rather, not thing. But yeah,
So
I mean, it's up to all of you.
I have an idea. What if we check on if we can find out what the Census Bureau used, and then in sentence 2, we could say, in terms of income rankings, third sentence, an examination by racial identity, those identified by the US Census Bureau as, and then fill in what they said, what they use.
I mean, Christine, you work for an organization that deals heavily with the population here or the Hispanic, Latino, Latina population here. And then I'm chimed in on the conversation nationally. What is your thought on just using Hispanic?
I'm comfortable with that. And, I think to Amanda's point, if we're being consistent in referencing the census, it makes sense to double check to see what the census is saying. But I think within our community and our practice, I mean, our organization's obviously still using the term Hispanic.
Yeah.
And we nearly never use Latinx. I mean, I think partners that we work with do. And, I don't, actively correct them, but just as this is a document of record, I wanted to acknowledge that that language isn't used, typically within the community as I understand it.
Yeah, and that's why I was suggesting if we qualify it by saying how they're identified via the Bureau. Right?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up while we're having this conversation.
Okay.
All
I
right.
always heard they say Latino or Latina, like when they say it on TV, or they say Hispanic and Latino. That's why I always hear it. But
So it's evolving, right? So Latino and Latina is grammatically correct in Spanish, but people started using Latinx as a way of addressing gender issues, but it was mostly picked up outside of Spanish-speaking groups, right? And so people who speak Spanish every day wouldn't say Latinx unless they were doing so in like an academic setting, for example. And so that's the issue.
Also, David, I have a comment on the last sentence. It's quite long.
So they use Hispanic.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we could
Of course,
say,
the problem is that Hispanic and Latinx or Latino are not the same.
Right. So it's going to exclude Brazilian or Portuguese speaking Latin identifying individuals. So
yeah, but
it becomes problematic.
The census data is Hispanic.
Okay.
so we could just qualify it with identified on the census as Hispanic.
I think that makes sense. We're just being consistent with our resources.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're going to just delete or
Latinx.
Latinx, right?
Well, in examination by racial identity, I would say after that comma, households identified on the census as Hispanic.
In terms of income rankings.
At third sentence, in examination by racial identity, household identified on the census as Hispanic.
An examination by racial identity, household, right here. Am I doing this right?
Yeah, but after the comma. Yep. Households identified on the census, capital census, as Hispanic and then take out Latina or Latinx households.
Take out Hispanic.
Take out,
They
no,
go
no,
Latinx,
or Latinx households
Latinx.
Got it.
and households. Yeah, so now it reads, an examination by racial identity, households identified on the census as Hispanic earned 28,000, while African-American households earned, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and then we take out Latinx in the,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
next.
it's still there on the 30th.
We may want to just track the document and find and replace all, or, with
Yeah.
probably showing up later as well, I imagine.
well,
Okay.
maybe, I mean, depends what context we're using it
Sure.
in, but then in that case, we might want to then replace it with Latin or something else.
Okay.
Well, and that's why we're doing this read through. So
Mhm.
as we come up with these little things, I can make the changes.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else in here?
Yeah, so that last sentence is really quite long. And
Yeah, it is.
I have an idea of how to break it into two. I just have
Okay.
to find it now that it's moved. Okay, so I would just put a period after survival budget. And then maybe say a survival budget would require. Because it's quite long and I kind of forgot what I was reading at the beginning. Okay, a survival budget would require households to have sufficient income to afford housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare. The last part, among other basic necessities and annual income, that's very awkward.
Should we just cut among other basic necessities? And just
No,
close
no,
out that
I have a
sentence?
better idea.
Okay,
A survival budget, comma, with an annual income more than 4 times that of the poverty line, comma, would
Yeah, thank you.
require,
Wait,
would
wait,
be
wait, you gotta
required.
go a little, so where am I starting here?
all right, a survival budget, comma, okay, with an annual income more than 4 times that of the poverty line, comma,
is that
Would-
a definition?
would be required, required for households. Would be required for,
Yeah,
and then delete the next 2 words.
okay, since this is my
And
paragraph.
basic necessities, and then a period after necessities. And delete everything else.
Hold on one second.
in that line.
Do you want me to read this again, David, since it's
Yes.
revised? Okay.
Yeah.
According to the US Census Bureau, the annual median household income for residents in the city of Hartford in 2019 was $36,278. In terms of income rankings, Hartford ranked last among all cities, not only within Hartford County, but within the entire state of Connecticut. In examination by racial identity, households identified on the census as Hispanic earned 28,000, while African-American households earned 38,000 and white households 39,000. Roughly 25% of African-American households, 38% of Hispanic households, and 27% of white households in Hartford live below the poverty line. According to the United Way Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed Report, Alice report for 2018, 64% of Hartford residents lived below what they described as a survival budget. A survival budget with an annual income more than 4 times that of the poverty line would be required for households to have sufficient income to afford housing, childcare, food, transportation, I would say, and healthcare, among other basic necessities.
Yes. And in the first sentence, I think it should be median annual household income, not annual
yeah.
median.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there might be an extra space between basic and necessities just because it's.
yeah, I see a little dash there.
No,
no.
it wants to remove basic.
Oh, okay.
necessities.
No, no word. Don't do that. Stop thinking for us. Okay, next paragraph, yes? Okay.
Yes.
Hartford has a unique opportunity to serve its most vulnerable citizens, to be a city leader in support of its residents, and to be a model for other US cities in the development of financial freedom programs. In developing a pilot program, the Hartford Court of Common Council can critically examine the impact of an unconditional extra source of income on various aspects of child, parent, and household well-being, each of which is likely affected by chronic stress brought on by income insecurity. Understanding how a UBI or GI program may improve health and well-being via reduced chronic stress, which has never before been assessed in any financial freedom program in the US, will provide policymakers with robust means to produce accurate cost-benefit analysis of such programs.
Okay, any thoughts, questions, concerns?
The only thing, and this would just be throughout the document, is sometimes well-being is hyphenated and other times it's not. And this is within this paragraph as well.
Wow, good catch.
I mean, most of the time I literally just click on what word tells me
Yeah.
should be changed and change it.
Now here it's not, it's fine with both, so.
Yeah, Word is fine with both, actually. So we just need to decide if we have a preference.
And I don't care, doesn't matter to me.
I don't care either, but you can do like find and replace all.
I could definitely do that if I was more tech savvy.
All right, are you on a PC or a Mac?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay, Command F.
Got it?
Yep, and then type in, well, what do we want it to be? Do we want it to be hyphenated or not?
I'm going to vote for not. Just I
Okay.
think it'll be smoother.
Okay, so then type in the hyphenated version of well-being, David. And then see the little arrow next to the magnifying glass? Click on that. And then go replace. And then on the left side over there, type in the non-hyphenated version and then click replace all.
Like that?
Oh, but it's all one word.
Yeah,
So
no space.
yeah, no
Yeah,
space.
smoother.
Like that?
There's a lot.
Yep, and then hit replace all and it'll be done.
There it is.
It is done.
Pretty cool, huh?
Hooray.
Woo-hoo, those PhDs are really paying off, guys.
We have to do this a lot. Yeah.
I learned that when I was an admin, well before I got my PhD. So a shout out to all the admins out there that know Word better than anyone else.
I just learned something. Thank you all.
Favorite keyboard shortcut is Command Z for undo.
That one I did know. All right, so we're good with this last. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do Carolyn. Can you do community-centered goals?
Sure. The goals of the task force are to provide recommendations for the implementation of a pilot program for eligible residents in Hartford that will provide initial data on the impacts of guaranteed income on the following measures: economic stability and financial freedom, spending choices, use of time, access to healthcare, employment and educational opportunities, caregiver-child relationships, children's educational outcomes, well-being, and emotional and physical health on both caregivers and children, and chronic stress. This report aims to provide recommendations that will yield a comprehensive assessment of the pilot program in order to provide the most robust evidence possible to inform future policy decisions to secure additional support for the expansion of this program.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions, comments, concerns with that paragraph?
It felt a little bit awkward when I was reading well-being and emotional and physical
Yeah.
health of both caregivers and children.
That's what I was thinking also, Carolyn.
Should we just take out well-being and just leave it emotional and physical health?
Yes.
Yeah. Also, yes. Okay, and then I'll wait for you to do that. And I would recommend changing the word on both caregivers and children to either in or for.
Four, I
Yeah.
think.
Just
Or
because
of.
they're, yeah.
I think emotional and physical health of both caregivers and
Yes,
children.
that's better.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this? Great. Carolyn?
Okay. Throughout the development of these recommendations, a parallel goal has been to serve the Hartford community as equitably as possible. Community input and feedback has been prioritized as a crucial element and guiding force to the task force, striving to elevate the voices of community members and gain insight into the community's perceptions, reservations, and hopes for the program. The task.
Sorry. No, sorry,
no.
we're in the same paragraph, so go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I'm on my phone reading it. Okay. The task force held public meetings over Zoom, which were broadcast,
Sorry.
which were broadcast over Hartford Public Access Television, HPA-TV, and shared via HPA-TV social media platforms, Facebook, and YouTube. The task force also created a City of Hartford UBI Facebook page to gather resident feedback and to provide a space for consistent engagement. The task force conducted outreach through attendance to Hartford's neighborhood revitalization zones, NRZs, to keep them updated on the work of the task force. 2 community forums were held to educate the public and gain feedback in July and October 2021. Community feedback, concerns, and suggestions were incorporated in these recommendations. Members of the task force were also interviewed by Connecticut Public Radio and local newspapers, which helped raise awareness of the topic and the work of the task force. So one quick change is just capitalized task force in that last sentence.
Yeah. And then this is really good to read it out loud because you hear the things you don't see. I have a grammatical thing. It's in the sentence of this paragraph, second sentence beginning with community input. Okay.
Have been prioritized. Yeah.
Well, it just sounds like community input and feedback, well, yes, have been prioritized. But then when we keep reading, as a critical element and guiding force to the task force, striving to elevate, it sounds like community input is striving to elevate the voices. This is
Maybe take
grammatical.
out striving, because I
well,
noticed
no,
that
could you-
too.
You
when
could
I
just say which strives to elevate, and then that would be grammatically correct, because it sounds like the subject is community input, which is striving to elevate, but
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
you know,
And actually, it should be community input and feedback have been prioritized as crucial elements.
yes, that's true. Now that, yep. And guiding forces.
And we can almost take out which strives and just say to elevate, but it's up to all of
Oh,
you.
yeah, that is much even more succinct. There you go. And get rid of the comma too. Yes.
Okay, so just for the record, Carolyn, can you read that portion again?
I can. Throughout the development of these recommendations, a parallel goal has been to serve the Hartford community as equitably as possible. Community input and feedback have been prioritized as crucial elements and guiding forces to the task force to elevate the voices of community members and gain insight into the community's perceptions, reservations, and hopes for the program.
Can I suggest in order to elevate? I think it just makes it a little smoother.
Okay. Is there any like concerns, or is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Yes. Looks good.
Okay. Go ahead, Carolyn. Thank you.
That's the end of her section.
That is the end, unless you want me to do pilot program recommendations.
No,
Oh,
no,
no,
no.
I
It's
thought you were gonna
the
start.
task force held public meetings over Zoom, blah, blah, blah. You already read that. She
I
already read
did.
that.
So are we
Yeah.
okay with the rest of this then?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so here is the chunky part. So Steve,
Okay, am I on mute? Can you hear me?
yes.
We
we
can
can-
move.
We can hear you.
Okay. Currently, the city of Hartford's goal is to distribute funds to 25 families. This would comprise the treatment group. A standalone observational study with only the treatment group would essentially be a proof of concept project that would offer Hartford the opportunity to demonstrate that the city has the capacity to implement such a program and track participants successfully. It would provide insights into how recipients use such funds, would help demystify the lived experience of Hartford families who may be struggling with economic security, and would deepen the city's understanding of the needs of its residents, period.
All right, so any thoughts on that?
Works for me.
Great, let's go ahead and move on to the next paragraph.
However, the task force cautions that an analysis without a randomly chosen control comparison group will be unlikely to provide convincing evidence on the impact of the program, because the sample of, you need the word of after sample,
Because the sample,
of UBI recipients will be far too small to control for the many other factors over which volunteers for the program will differ from the average city resident, period. Further, this program will be taking place during the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, which will likely last years. And it will be very difficult without a high quality comparison group to distinguish between the effect of UBI and the effects arising from the recovery from the pandemic. Therefore, this task force recommends securing additional resources to develop a randomized control trial study to compare 25 families receiving UBI funds, treatment group, with 25 families, active control group, receiving compensation for responding to recommended measures below. And another 25 families, parentheses, passive control group, measuring administrative data only. The task force recommends an RCT because this design will yield the most robust results, period. I have a comment.
yep,
When you read this second to last sentence, it says 25 families, active control group, receiving compensation for responding to recommended measures, parentheses below. I think measures isn't going to make sense to people.
Outcomes?
Responses to recommended. I'm not sure.
How about responding to surveys?
That's fine. That's gonna be much more salient to everybody if you put the word
Yeah, but it's not
survey in
just
instead of
surveys.
measures.
But it's not just surveys if we're also recommending samples.
You could say receive compensation for responding to requests for information and samples. Parentheses below. I'm not sure. It just measures is just
Yeah.
too vague.
Yeah, you're right. It's vague.
Yeah, this is much better. Requests for information and samples. Yeah, much better.
okay, any other thoughts on that paragraph? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Are we certain that the Common Court will understand the, I guess, functional difference with the passive and active control group, and therefore the reason for including passive control if it's going to be that much more expensive? So like, what are we getting from the passive control group?
Well, the passive control group's super cheap, right? Because you don't have to pay them every couple months to respond. The passive control group is just adding extra sample. It could be 50, it could be 100. It's just going to give you a little more precision in the administrative data when you're
Yep.
trying to find effects.
So that is not clear to me, and I'm a scientist, and I think it's worth adding just a sentence saying something to that effect.
Okay,
Well,
I agree.
And I recommend that we go through the rest of the report first to see.
Yeah, just make a little note.
Yeah, because there's another section where some of this gets covered.
Well, and keep in mind too, that I think that even you can try to, and this is for the public as well, you can try to put, add some context to some of this to make it a little bit more digestible or palpable for people. But at the end of the day, there's just certain concepts that we are not going to be able to define well enough to allow everyone to understand. And I think that that's where your participation in the committee hearing is going to be really important, because you can verbally address some of those concerns and answer them in ways that make sense.
Okay.
So I guess the question that I would ask everyone is, when you're reading this, ask yourself, okay, so would one or two more sentences make this easily understood? If not, then perhaps it's a concept that needs to be verbally discussed at the committee level.
I think probably it needs something, but the question is, it might not, that information might not necessarily want to be provided in the summary of the general design, right? That the sentence or two might already be in the justification. And if it's not, it certainly should be added to the justification, right? That we have some more details provided, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting we go through the report and see if it's somewhere else, because I recall there's greater explanation.
That sounds good. We
I
can
agree.
just remember we need to
Yeah.
come back to this if it doesn't show up.
For sure.
I'll continue. An
Okay.
RCT is a rigorous research design that will allow for the comparison of individuals over time who made the same decision to volunteer to participate in a program where some received the benefit and others did not. Similar to the RCTs conducted for the COVID vaccine clinical trials in 2020 and 21, this study design will allow the state to better assess the impacts of the pilot program. An RCT would allow the team to determine whether observed effects come from the UBI pilot program itself or from external environmental changes such as improvements in the economy. This information could also be useful in assisting policymakers in deciding whether to expand financial freedom pilot programs, demonstration projects, or permanent program adoption.
Great. Any comments, questions, or concerns? I did that, add the also be, Steve.
That's fine. Where's the also,
It's there, yeah.
did I read it?
You said it.
Okay.
Yeah. Although now it says this information could be also be, so.
All right, good eye, eagle eye.
Oh,
Yeah, he got it.
okay, sorry. So I said also, even though it wasn't in there.
That's right.
Yeah. Once you
And you
said
guys
it, it
decided you
sounded
liked
right.
Okay, next paragraph. This is where I think we could add something about the passive and the active control group, if we don't find it somewhere else in this paragraph here.
Okay.
The investments required for adding randomly chosen comparison groups for the RCT approach would include providing some modest compensation to the active participant non-recipients for participating in follow-up data collection and the costs associated with collecting and analyzing the data for all participants. So right after this, in this paragraph, it would be relatively easy to talk about the passive control group. So let's just keep that in mind.
Okay.
However, the task force recognizes that the additional hurdles that come with an RCT may be difficult to overcome. Nevertheless, the task force is united in its conviction that the benefits of an RCT that incorporates the following recommendations outweigh the cost, and that the potential information yielded will be a return on investment. If a RCT cannot be implemented, then by default, the city council would opt for a 25 participate observational study, period.
Above we say an RCT, and in this last sentence it says a RCT.
Yes.
Change it to an,
Okay, yep.
last one. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on those two? Great. So let's do recruitment. And Colleen, can you read it?
I can't because I'm on my phone. I have to pinch it together. I'm sorry. I'm not on the
Okay.
computer.
It's okay. Gina, can you cover recruitment?
Sure. Recruitment. In the event this project moves forward as an RCT, the task force recommends a stratified random sampling plan. Participants could be recruited through a combination of community outreach and direct mailing through a program roster such as SNAP recipients. Applications should be completed online via a survey hosted on a Hartford City website. A simple random sample utilizing the same recruitment methods would suffice for an observational only demonstration project study. For an RCT, researchers would select a random sample from eligible volunteers selected from respondents to one of the UBI solicitations. This random sample would be randomly assigned to receive UBI or to be in one, it says it should be one of the two comparison groups. The task force strongly recommends these approaches over a convenience sample based, for example, on a sample of names provided by partner nonprofit organizations. In order to preserve equity, the people in Hartford must feel that if they are eligible and take the time to apply, that they have a chance of being selected for the program.
Great.
I have one brief comment in the parentheses, selected from respondents to one of the UBI solicitations. I feel like the chances are small, but it may be misconstrued as only one of the solicitations will be selected from. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And can we just get rid of select that and just say selected from respondents to the UBI solicitations?
Yes.
Perfect. The other question I have, and this is a technical issue that maybe we just don't even want to address in this, is that we did talk about sort of stratified random sampling, not random sampling, because of the small size of the study. We can sort of enforce more balance and get more power if we sort of have stratified random sampling, where we have two very, very similar people, and then we randomly assign one to the control group and one to the treatment and do that 25 times. I don't know whether there's something like we just want to add the word stratified, or whether we want to say something, or whether this is just something that can be handled once decisions are made. I don't have a strong opinion.
So, Steve, in the first sentence, we say recommends a stratified random sampling plan.
Oh, where did I miss? I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay.
That's okay.
I was looking at the bottom part of the paragraph.
So we might want to add stratified everywhere we have random sampling.
Will it be clear what
Oh,
it
no.
means to be stratified?
Yeah.
No, I think that's one of those terms that people, I mean, I'm in the MPA program. I have no idea what that, well, I do know what that is, but like, it's difficult to like really put into words for someone who doesn't have a strong research background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the fact that we are recommending a stratified random sample for the RCT and a
It's
single
perfect.
random sample for
That's
the
good.
observational only.
Just
right?
good enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good enough. Okay,
Okay.
I just wanted to ask. Thank you.
No,
All right,
that was
let's
a
go
good
ahead and
catch.
move on. Any other questions on that?
This brings up an idea, David. Is it, I don't know, maybe we don't even need to consider this, but is it worth developing like a glossary that could be an appendix where these things are defined, or is that too much additional work, or we just can talk about it at the meeting?
No, I mean, I think that it's okay. Most of the time when legislators put out, new legislation, they have a glossary of terms, just so that, members of the public can follow along.
Mhm.
I think that shouldn't be a problem. It's a good idea.
Okay, if we
Also,
decide to do that, we're going to need to decide what terms to include and the deadline for including them as another appendix.
I mean, as a first pass, I might include ones that we've talked about need more explanation, which are just the two so far, which is the passive control group and then the stratified random sampling. But
I even think RCT, randomized control, it probably someone's going to be like, what is that, right? We throw around RCT a lot, but it's not like it's just obvious.
Right, and we may want to have something about using the term Hispanic as consistent with
yeah,
the census and not using Latinx or some other term.
Well, I mean, you have to remember too, that you can't get too much into the weeds either.
right.
I think that it's perfectly acceptable to define terms like RCT, active control group, passive control group, stratified random sampling. Those are research terms, but you don't want to define every complicated term either.
In which
So
case, I see that this might be a slippery slope. So, it's fine to scrap the idea.
Yeah,
I like the idea. I actually really do, Amanda. I think that if you're all okay with this, I would like to get the 6 research terms that we see in this report on a regular basis. Those 6 terms, I think, should be clearly defined.
Okay.
All right, so let's go and move on to the next paragraph.
truly universal payment programs follow a principle of no targeting under the philosophy that basic income should be a right rather than a retractable benefit for people living in poverty. By targeting a certain income category, a pilot program may find itself at risk of perpetuating the kind of stigma associated with selective-based means-tested programs. That said, if only 25 families are slated to receive the funds, some decisions must be made. Most contemporary pilot programs, such as those associated with the Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, MGI, have opted to include only participants with low incomes. The SEED project focused on location with unconditional funds that had no work or income requirements. SEED researchers selected neighborhoods with incomes below the average income for Stockton and then randomly selected participants from those neighborhoods. However, Stockton income levels are high relative to Hartford, and the recipient households in their sample actually had a higher median income than residents of the city of Hartford.
I have a comment, and I think the first time we use seed is in this paragraph, so we need to define it first and then put it in parentheses.
I think we may have used it above, but I think it was similarly not
yeah,
defined.
you're totally right. Wait, yes, so up there, you're right, on page, whatever that is, before Hartford.
You could do a search for SEED.
I did, that's where I found the first one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, right there, where you are, David.
So what is, can you?
Hartford.
Oh, hang on, I'll look
I
it
don't
up.
remember the abbreviation.
I
But
read Hartford and I said Stockford.
I got a question, guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When it said seed, I know Hartford used to have certain location, as they said, targeted areas that have low income, and they used to call it weed and seed program in Hartford, like go by your zip code, like there was the 06112 and so weed and seed. So can you define seed? Is it almost the same thing, David? Because it's
No, I
targeted
found
areas
it.
low income?
I
No?
found it. It's
No,
the,
it's not. Go ahead, Gina.
Okay.
the Stockton Economic Empowerment Demonstration.
Yeah. The nation's first mayor-led guaranteed income demonstration.
I have a broader comment on this paragraph, and I don't know what to do about it, but we don't make any recommendation here.
Well, we moved up from recommendations. So just so that we could define the first use of seed, and now we're going to go back down.
Oh, no, I'm talking about this paragraph, the paragraph that was just read, right?
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
Right. So in the paragraph that was just read, which is in the study that is recommendations for the study design, where it starts truly universal payment programs follow a principle of no targeting, then it provides lots of information, but it actually never provides the city council with a recommendation on what to do. And so we need a sentence here that says, we recommend ...
Oh, actually, we have it in the inclusion criteria, I think.
Yeah, I think it shouldn't. Okay, I'm okay with that. But I just don't know. I would have thought it would have been right here, but maybe I'm wrong.
And I think we had, you make a good point about location of it, but I think we have a recommendation. What was it, like the most or the majority of members are recommending? Do you remember, David?
Maybe what if we moved that paragraph, truly universal payment programs, to the first paragraph under recruitment, and then this paragraph right here, the second paragraph would have the recommendations. The task force strongly recommends these approaches over a convenient sampling based.
But I'm not where I sort of
Do you want to show us what that looks like, David? Maybe that will.
no, because that's just about randomization. It's not about it's not about it's not about inclusion or exclusion. I guess the inclusion comes right after it.
Yes.
Right?
So
We don't have a recommendation, but in the very next paragraph, we're giving the recommendation there.
Yeah,
Right?
this is just general. I didn't know what to call it in drafting this, but it's kind of like a general recruitment, and then how,
So why don't we leave it alone until we read this other material?
Yeah, it's in the inclusion criteria.
it
Which
is,
comes
yeah.
to next. Okay,
Yeah.
so
This is how to recruit people.
I will withdraw my comment until we've gone further.
And then Colleen,
Sustained.
just to wrap up, because you had a good question, and I want to make sure that
Yeah, because
residents-
it's Seed and Hartford.
residents
yeah.
understand it too. So a lot of the initial work that we did referenced the seed data, which was
Mhm.
put out in a white paper last year. And so
Okay.
seed was the name of the project in California that chose neighborhoods that fell within, they used basically census tracts to
Mhm.
select neighborhoods that fell below the median household income, the annual median household income for Stockton. And then they
Okay.
randomly chose people that lived in those neighborhoods to participate, and they gave UBI payments.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's different than what you're referencing that took place in Hartford.
Oh, yeah. Just if Hartford resident look at it, they might think maybe the same thing because they go by your zip code where you live. It's probably that's maybe
That's
to
why
explain
we-
it much better.
That's why we define seed in that first paragraph, or the
Okay.
first part of the paper, so that people knew that when we reference seed, that's what
Mhm.
we were referencing the Stockton project.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, did we already read this? Yes, we did. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we're in the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Christine, can you take this?
Sure. The task force recommends the following inclusion and exclusion criteria for the target population. Inclusion criteria. Number 1, single working primary caregivers will be eligible. The task force recommends that custodial primary caregivers be included, not just single working mothers, owing to the fact that many children are legally cared for by people other than their biological mothers. Custodial primary caregivers with at least one child between 3rd and 8th grade residing in the city of Hartford should be eligible. Number 2, a key principle of financial freedom programs is that they provide an income guarantee that is not taken away as someone's circumstances improve. Therefore, many in the financial freedom advocate and scholarly community believe that there should be no means testing in such programs. Sorry, that was awkward for me to read. Thus, the majority of task force members recommend that there should be no income level criteria for inclusion in the pilot beyond proof of at least part-time work. Note that whether we means test or not will have no impact on our ability to evaluate the UBI program for recipients as long as their eligibility after selection is unaffected by any improvements in circumstances during the study.
All
I have a
right.
recommendation for that awkward part.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because you're right. It like hearing it's weird. Therefore, many in the financial freedom advocacy
Yeah,
and scholarly communities, plural.
yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Out right when you read it. It's like, ooh.
Okay, so this is a really big one, and I really would like to hear Colleen and Carolyn. What are your thoughts on this?
Where she just read?
Yes, so the inclusion criteria, Colleen, honestly, this comes from a conversation that I had with you, where one of the concerns you had is that, hey, if you're a grandma or a grandpa in Hartford raising kids, for whatever reason, you should qualify. Well, this inclusion criteria has expanded it to allow those individuals to now qualify.
This was also
That's
comments
good.
by Stefan.
Yes.
Yeah, he was asking about, that would be like the guardian, of course.
Yes.
Okay, any other thoughts on the inclusion criteria?
The income requirement piece, no income level criteria, comes from a conversation we had a couple of meetings ago where Carolyn, you had expressed some opinions about that. And so we want to check in, and also, doesn't have to be like, basically the idea is if there's some disagreement that's reflected here.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that there should be income limits, but I see that it's reflected.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're happy with this then, Carolyn, as written?
Yeah, yep.
All right.
I
So
come down on the I don't care whether there's income limits or not position.
I think there should be. I think there should be income limits. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
It may be that it's not a majority. How many people actually feel strongly that there should not be income limits? Because it might be it's not a majority.
Mhm. I know Stefan thought there should be income limits.
And I thought so too, just because, you could have people in Hartford making as the medium income, as they're saying, like up to what, 32, 34, and they could be making more than that and probably be qualified. So I think there should be an income limit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess I think the statement the majority of task force members recommend is
Mhm.
probably inaccurate.
so we can, so I mean, should we just say thus task force
I-
members recommend?
Can I just
Mm.
ask something? Does the part about beyond proof of at least part-time work, is that sufficient enough to show, is that sufficient enough or no, I guess? is my
No,
question.
because it's the opposite, right? Because
Yeah.
there's two members on, I don't have a strong opinion either way. There's two members on the committee who believe that we should rule out people who make tons of money.
Yes.
And those people will of course have part-time work or better. So I think a fair statement is that the task force is divided on whether there should be income level criteria for.
What about
inclusion
there's
in
no
the pilot.
consensus amongst the task force?
That's
I think
perfect.
that makes sense.
That's fine too.
Okay, so give me some language here.
Okay, so that sentence right there. There is no consensus amongst the task force
Members.
members about whether, and then delete everything before income level. And I'm not sure, maybe we do also then delete part-time work.
Well, I
So-
think for some people,
Whether there should be,
Oh, right.
Whether income level criteria should be included or should be considered.
Whether
Yes.
there should be income level criteria.
requiring
Mhm.
proof of part-time work is a separate issue that really should be in a separate sentence, right?
Okay.
Again, I don't have a strong opinion, but there
Mhm.
might be a consensus about requiring proof of at least part-time work. And so we should pull that out and put it in its own sentence.
I
Okay,
think that's a good
so
point, Steve.
yeah,
Mhm.
that is. Let's
So
finish this
about
part
whether there
first.
should be income level criteria for inclusion in the pilot. Period.
Right. And then the
Mhm.
explanation about the difference between a UBI and a GI and the information about the census will help
Mhm.
those elected officials to make a determination.
Yep.
They've been given the information about the pros and cons and the underlying philosophy.
All right, so I've got 5 academics on this call. So break this down. Are we okay with that first sentence that I changed?
Which sentence, David? There is
There
no.
is no consensus among the task force membership about whether there should be income level criteria for inclusion in the pilot.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, you could make it read a little more clearly by just saying there is not consensus among the task force membership regarding the inclusion of income level criteria.
That's good.
Yeah, that's much better.
So take out about whether, regarding,
And then I would just say there's not consensus. I don't
Yeah.
know, sounds a little smoother.
Mhm. There is not. Yes.
Okay, so then what am I doing with this beyond proof of at least part-time work sentence?
That's part of the,
Oh.
so is there any
You should make it a
disagreement?
4. Wait, is there? Ooh,
It
one
should come out of
supporting
that
primary
sentence.
caregiver. 2 is
Okay, wait, we
the
gotta
income
talk,
level.
we gotta talk one at a time. So Gina, go ahead.
Right, so if you're looking at the entire paragraph, you see 1, single working primary caregivers. 2 is the income, so we should say 3. Proof of at least part-time work.
Perfect.
Got it.
Should that be a complete sentence?
Not necessarily.
Okay,
All right. So, and what was the last thought on this?
I think the last sentence isn't really clear. It could be more written more
actually,
clearly.
we should have 2, proof of at least part-time work,
Okay.
and then
Gina,
3.
Yeah, that's good. Switch them.
Okay, so 2, well, wait, before I do that, Carolyn was talking. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Yeah, I was just moving on to the next sentence that it's a little unclear the way it's written, and I could probably be improved a little bit.
Yeah, and I was noting that it has to do with the piece before the part-time employment, which is why I was suggesting a switch.
Yeah,
I
that
like the
order
switch.
switch might, yeah, address that.
I like
that
that
issue.
switch.
All right, so let's do this.
Control X and Control V.
And then this one right here. And this is 3. And this is 2.
And now we should reread it for flow in light of Carolyn's comment.
Okay, so Christine, were you doing this?
Yes, yep. So I'll just
Okay.
from the top, right? Inclusion criteria. Number 1, single working primary caregivers will be eligible. The task force recommends that custodial primary caregivers be included, not just single working mothers, owing to the fact that many children are legally cared for by people other than their biological mothers. Custodial primary caregivers with at least 1 child between 3rd and 8th grade residing in the city of Hartford should be eligible. 2, proof of at least part-time work. 3, a key principle of financial freedom programs is that they provide an income guarantee that is not taken away as someone's circumstances improve. Therefore, many in the financial freedom advocacy and scholarly communities believe that there should be no means testing in such programs. There's not consensus among the task force membership regarding the inclusion of income level criteria for the pilot. Note that whether we means test or not will have no impact on our ability to evaluate the UBI program for recipients as long as their eligibility after selection is unaffected by any improvements in circumstances during the study.
Okay, any thoughts? Good,
No, I think it makes sense now.
Yeah, agreed.
That way. Mhm.
awesome. Okay, so let's go into rationale. Amanda, can you take this one?
Yes, rationale. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Single primary caregivers will ensure inclusion of a variety of household compositions and parental possibilities, including biological or adoptive mother or father, grandparent raising a grandchild, or other households where one single adult holds responsibility for the raising of a child. I'm just going to note right now that sentence is very long. In choosing single caregiver households, Hartford has already, quote, tipped the scales to increase the likelihood of applicants living in or near poverty. In choosing single working caregivers, an unintended, quote, deserving subpopulation is also a departure from the philosophy of guaranteed income programs. However, in making these choices, the city of Hartford has identified one of many groups who may best benefit from this kind of program, since it will impact both adults and their children. One question Hartford should consider is the longer-term goals of this pilot project. Will post-pilot plans include the development and implementation of an expanded program for this subpopulation only, for additional subgroups, or a truly universal program, parentheses, a flat amount, or possibly with equitable amount distribution based on a sliding income scale, tax brackets, or similar formula, parentheses.
Okay, great. So you indicated that the sentence is a little long. How do we
Yeah.
break that up?
All right. I don't think we need the word possibilities. Let's see, I don't know, because I was reading it. So single parent care is including a variety of compositions and.
Yeah, I think a variety of household compositions is enough.
Yes, I agree, because then we're including all of those.
Okay,
Mhm.
so what do I cut?
So we're cut out parental possibility and parental possibilities. Okay. Yeah. It's still almost 3 lines. That's better.
Okay, any other thoughts for that paragraph?
I did have one thought just while hearing it out loud, which is that the making these choices, I mean, it's not exactly a rationale. So it's kind of like things to consider or things to ponder that Hartford's going to have to determine. But I mean, it also could stay here because above, in the paragraph above, we basically do the same thing by saying that there's no consensus. So Hartford's going to have to think about it.
Yeah, we might want to change the term rationale to note.
I don't know. I think rationale is good. It sort of just, it says, look, we're going to try to explain our recommendations.
And we
In
said at the
some
top
cases,
that
we couldn't make a recommendation, so
Yeah.
we can't quite be the rationale for the recommendation. But in general, this is the rationale section. So I like it being rationale.
Yeah, and we did say we would provide justification or rationale at the top. So I thought it would be here, but maybe I think I personally am just getting too into the weeds, and it's probably fine.
Well, actually, you know, I had that thought at the very beginning. You actually use the word justification, and I don't think we use the word rationale.
Justification is fine too.
Okay. Are you
Notes is
okay with
not.
justification, Gina?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, any other thoughts for this paragraph? Okay.
Okay, I have a little bit at the end. Enrolling families with children in 3rd through 8th grades will allow the study of school attendance and academic performance data, which research suggests could be a suitable proxy for other educational outcomes. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
And this is something I put in the draft. If it sounds like we are recommending to really only use attendance data, so why can't we then extend it down to K through 8?
Are we or not? I never heard we were recommending only using attendance data. Is that true?
No, I didn't hear that either, which is why I changed it to attendance and academic performance.
Okay.
I assumed we were using NCLB test scores, but we don't have to, but I thought we were.
Okay.
And also, we talked about report cards, which are uniform from 3rd grade onward, I believe.
You don't really have, I mean, uniform is a strong word. Once you get to middle school, they're more uniform, but in elementary school, I guess you get a little bit.
The reason I was asking is because based on the draft, you know, that I had worked on before this, the data collection included attendance and then I think parental report of the report cards.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought we were going to try to get test scores from the state Department of Education, but if not, then
Okay.
yes, you shouldn't do this.
No,
It should be
I thought
clear
that too.
that the reason for this is getting standardized test scores from the State Department of Education. If we're not going to do that, then it would be silly to restrict from 3rd through 8th grade.
Yeah, I thought we were going to do that too.
Okay, I didn't see it in the draft that turned into what we're reading. I didn't see standardized test scores in the draft that turned into what we're reading. And so if we are going to do that, then we need to make it explicit.
I agree.
Well, and again, I just want to provide clarification. You all will not determine how the program is actually implemented. That's up to City Council. So
Right.
City Council may read this and say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to use attendance, and therefore we're going to use K through 8th grade.
That would be great. Yes. And that's why we should be clear that the reason for the restriction of 3rd through 8th is solely about access to standardized test scores.
Exactly.
And then, so I agree.
Okay, so if we want to talk about standardized test scores, and we could say study of school attendance, comma, academic performance data, comma, and any other standardized test scores that
Well,
may be applicable.
Well, so for rationale, I think you need to be more specific. Enrolling families with children in 3rd through 8th grade will allow the study of standardized test scores.
Yes.
period.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If one is examining attendance, you could examine kids starting in K all the way through 11, right? And you actually need 3rd through 7. It needs to be 3rd through 7 because you sort of, well, no, it's an experiment. Never mind. I guess you need 2nd through 7. You need 2nd through 7 because you need to have them take an exam after the UBI. So it should be 2nd grade through 7th, because then a year later they take the exam and you see if they do better. And the exams are only 3rd through 8th. So it should be 2nd through 7th.
And then at the top under inclusion as well.
And that will allow the use of standardized test scores. And then we should be clear that even if this restriction was not imposed, we would still be able to assess school attendance. And for older children, detailed report card information.
I also want to add that we wanted to look at suspension and detention.
Yeah, that is on the measures. But do we need to include it in the justification?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I don't think so, since we detail that as an outcome measure.
Yeah, I think we just need to give them a sense that if they want to look at standardized test scores, they need to restrict the grades from 2nd to 7th. But if they're just interested in attendance, and then they do not need to, if they're just interested in attendance and data that they can collect directly, then they do not need to impose that restriction.
Yeah.
Right, I would suggest, exactly what you're deleting there. I would say if examining attendance and behavior only.
And child report cards.
And report cards.
Mhm.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What's the purpose for like the attendance and their grades? Can you guys explain that to me? Like if they get a D versus an A, would they still be eligible for the money? Can you guys explain that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's just, those things are things we're measuring kind of after UBI starts.
So does
Oh.
UBI improve them?
Mhm.
Okay. Because I know students in Hartford are not doing good some after COVID-19, and I see that they have Saturday classes for them right now. The attendance was not great.
Yeah, I
And I
heard
guess
about
their
the
grades.
Saturday, what is it, the Saturday Academy or something?
Yeah, and I was at a board meeting that they asked me to spoke at Weaver, and it was like a tour meeting like 2 weeks ago, and we were talking to the superintendent. We have teachers that's leaving Hartford and going off to Avon, Farmington, and those towns. Hartford schools are not doing good.
That's rough.
So David,
Yeah.
under inclusion, I think it's a couple paragraphs above, we need to change the grades. Yeah, under number 1.
Okay.
3rd and 8th grade should read 2nd and 7th.
Good catch.
Yeah, and then the last sentence under justification, I don't know that there's no age restriction because we're not going to get attendance data on pre-K programs, are we?
No.
So we could say it could go as low as kindergarten or something like that,
Ew.
or
Yes.
K through 12, or I
K
don't
through 12 would be fine.
know. Okay.
So how, I mean, again, I'm literally looking for some guidance. on that.
Okay, if examining those things, then students in grades K through 12 would be eligible. A
But
suggestion.
If not examining test scores and instead just examining blah,
Yeah,
then
that's right. Okay, so at the beginning of the sentence, David, it could.
and again, it's the year before kindergarten through 11th grade, right? Because
You're
you
right.
can't see attendance if you start them, right? So it's always got to be the year before. So it's 2nd through 7th, and then it might be K through 11.
Unless we specify enrolling in K through 12 in whatever next year is.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
actually, I have a concern about pre-K because pre-K could be very young.
Yes,
and not
could be.
Well,
gonna get
that's why I think say K through 11, to say 2nd through 7th, and say K through 11.
Yeah, I think that's much better.
That's the simplest thing to do.
And usually
not
the
only
K is
that-
capitalized.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, it is.
And by having its grades instead of ages, then you're not cutting off, a 5 versus a 6-year-old, depending on their birthday,
Right.
somebody who's in 11th grade who got left back and is a year older, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, well, given that we've only got 30 minutes left,
Okay.
how is that sentence okay now?
Hey, it's Carol and Steve. I have a quick question. So enrolling families with children in 2nd through 7th. So say they enroll in June. So does that apply to the grade the kids are in June, or once the
Yeah.
program starts?
That's why I was suggesting we specify enrolling in grades whatever through whatever in school year 2022 to 23.
Yeah, that's
Oh, I
more
like that.
clear.
That's
Mhm.
good. Yeah, that's good. So
In
you
which
want to,
case,
you
it
want
would
to, so
be
you
back to 3rd through 8th, right?
3rd through 8th, but specify the academic year.
Yeah. Yes, so now it's
And
gonna
so
go
now
back to
that will be 3rd
8th.
through 8th, and then it will be 1st through 12th.
So we're changing this to
It could
3rd
still
through
be K
8th.
through 12. It could
Well,
still
you
be
just,
K-
but you don't know because remember, they're enrolling, if they enroll in May and we don't know what their kid is doing, we don't know for sure they're going to send them to kindergarten. If we know they are in kindergarten, we know they'll be in 1st grade in 22-23. So I would say 1 through 12.
How do we not know they'll enroll in kindergarten? It's not compulsory?
You can,
It's
you
not
can register.
compulsory for like an age band. So it's
Yeah.
compulsory after, like if you have a choice if your kid is born from this month to that month,
Yeah.
if you want to
And-
hold back or go forward.
And people will actually violate those age bands all the time and don't send their kids. So really you want it 3rd through
Yeah.
8th.
Some
1 through
kindergartners
12.
would still be eligible.
What?
Some kindergartners would still be eligible. A lot of them would be.
That
I
is
would
true.
say then students enrolled in grades.
Yes. I had said that, I thought I said that earlier, enrolled in grades, and then we specify whatever they are.
Right, because then they can't opt out. They have to be enrolled.
Okay, so.
Well, but it's in the future.
A lot of people are talking.
Yeah.
And again, this is being recorded and it will be available and it will be watched. So we have to be very clear and concise here.
Okay.
How do I do this?
Enrolling families with children who will
Third.
start grades 3rd through 8th during the 2023 that academic year. Start in grades. Because we've already said enrolled, we can't say it again. Yes. And
That's
then,
Do I
great.
have to change this again?
yes,
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
So we had it before.
Third,
say 3rd RD, yeah. There you go.
But this is going to be different, right? Because now you need to say with at least one child entering 3rd and 8th grade during the study, right? Because we've changed the meaning of 3rd to 8th grade below, and now the meaning up above is not correct.
That's fine. So we can say above, custodial primary caregivers with at least one child entering
Yep.
grades 3rd through 8th during the same as it's down below.
Yep. Perfect.
Word is weird sometimes. That's fine. Yeah, and then in that sentence, David, just replace the word and between 3rd and 8th with a hyphen like below. Okay, yeah, and then Steve had said in the last sentence, we should revise it. Oh,
Go ahead, I'm listening.
okay, we should revise it to say, if not examining standardized test scores.
Or if examining only.
Okay, yeah, that's much more succinct. If examining only, yeah, or if only.
If only examining, perfect.
There. Great. And it's K-12 now, right? Then, I'm sorry, one last thing, then students enrolling in grades K through 12.
In the 22-23.
I guess, yeah, if we want to be totally explicitly clear.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so is that good now? Can everyone see on my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's get into exclusion criteria. Steve, can you take it?
Yes. The task force recommends that no person or family meeting the following criteria be included. Non-custodial caregivers. Any household that receives supplemental security income. No custodial caregiver involved with paying or receiving child support payments. No preferences will be given regarding current income level, type of housing, kinds of benefits received, or whether the children are in public or private school. Enrollment will be limited to people who are U.S. citizens or permanent residents with a green card, period.
We need to get rid of the part about income level, I think, because we said there's no consensus. Isn't that right?
Well, no, this is, I think you can say no.
Exclusion. This is exclusion.
No, you can say no among qualified participants, among qualified applicants.
I see what you mean.
No preferences will
okay.
be. So if you add the word among
That's-
qualified applicants, comma, before the word no, then it doesn't matter what your income level is within any sort of
okay.
qualifying requirement.
That's
Right.
much clearer, yeah. Thank
And
you.
then rationale should be justification if
Mhm.
we're going to be consistent.
Yep.
I think I pulled the rationale from an IRB proposal, so sorry. Okay,
Any other thoughts with the exclusion criteria?
No, that's good.
how
The
about
change I made, okay?
our community input advisors? Okay,
No, I think we're good. All right, so can you get into justification, Steve?
Justification. These exclusions exist as protective measures where the city cannot prevent harm, i.e. removal of benefits. Our research indicates that the city of Hartford cannot protect SSI recipients and individuals court involved with child support from alterations or withdrawal of their funds upon receipt of program funding.
mhm.
The task force is currently divided on whether to institute a maximum income eligibility. No matter what the city chooses, comma, the likelihood of targeting low-income families is statistically extremely high, given the overall poverty rate of 28.1% and the sharp decline in the distribution incomes above ALICE thresholds. That, okay. I have one question. And individuals court involved with child support. That felt awkward to me, but maybe it's just me.
Well, you actually said who are, I think I heard you like say it, I don't know, quietly.
So it's like I added also
Yeah, so that made sense, so.
individuals who are court
Are
involved.
court
Yeah.
involved. Or I thought I heard you say, maybe I heard it in my own brain, but. think
I
it-
was
No, but it makes
unhappy.
sense. Individuals who are court involved. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, any other thoughts on this?
No.
Great. Carolyn, can you read this part of program implementation? Are you still with us, Carolyn?
I think,
Sorry, I was on mute. So starting with additional recommendations?
Right
No,
here, the task force.
sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm having trouble.
It's okay.
Right under program implementation.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you. The task force recommends contracting with a community nonprofit as the central point of access for the study. Lessons learned from other UBI studies, including the SEED project, include the importance of establishing and upholding trusting relationships with participants. 2 or 3 individuals who are experts in benefits counseling should be identified to provide guidance, answer questions, possibly collect some kinds of data, and serve as point person for participants for the duration of the study.
I think it should be point persons.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other thoughts on that paragraph? Okay, can you take the next one, Carolyn?
Sure. Like other UBI programs, and based on community input, the task force recommends that funds be distributed to treatment group participants via a debit card. Community forum participants expressed a desire to receive funds either once or twice a month, utilizing a debit card that would be guaranteed not to expire before the program ended. The task force endorses these recommendations. Control group participants would receive compensation for their participation in data collection.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
How, like, do we want to give them, like, is it easier to give the control group like gift cards?
No, I think it's a good point, Steve. I
We-
propose recommending the same thing. a
We
debit.
left it open because we don't have a specific determination about what the compensation will be. It could be funds, it could be, bus passes, it could be other things that we didn't come to a definitive decision
Okay.
on.
Okay.
So, I guess I remember from our community input forum in October, more than once, we heard an hourly compensation.
But we
rate.
can't do hourly compensation. Because
It'll
someone
also
say-
depend on what our funding sources may be. They may have constraints around the ways in which the compensation is determined.
Besides, unless I'm mistaken, I mean, I don't think that we recommended that participants be given a $500 amount either. So we didn't have that limitation placed on what participants are going to be receiving. So I don't think that we should put the limitation on what the control group will be receiving either. As
Okay.
long as we recognize that the control group should receive some type of compensation.
Good.
I think our thought was that we were gonna compensate per, per survey, for example, that was returned, or sample that was returned. Because if we do it hourly, then somebody could say, oh, it took me an hour to complete the survey and somebody else 10 minutes.
Well, I think we actually could, that's right. We could expand this sentence to say the control group should receive compensation each time they participate in data collection.
I like that.
So we're clear that, it's not sort of, we just pay you and then you're participating. We give you a little bit of money every time you participate.
Yeah, but again, I don't think that that's our call,
Well, it's a recommendation. That's why I said should.
So should receive compensation for their participation in data collection.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I don't
would
care.
that too, is figure out, do we need to say should or would? And I like should better.
So
I like it better too.
my point was that we, as a committee, I think we believe
Mhm.
that we should provide compensation every time they
Mhm.
participate. Each
Yeah.
time they participate. So there is actually a second edit that is part of the recommendation
Each time they participate. Yeah.
in data collection.
Okay, so we've got 15 minutes to do 3 pages. So let's get through.
Sorry.
it.
You want me to read
Additional-
quickly?
Yes, Gina, go ahead.
Additional recommendations for implementation. 2 or 3 point persons to serve as direct contacts for trust building, follow-up benefits, advocacy purposes, and possibly some data collection. Memorandum of Agreement, MOA, with a local nonprofit to provide benefits counseling. A dedicated city-sponsored website for applications, information, and data dashboard. SurveyMonkey accounts for all researchers to collect quantitative and qualitative data. Zoom accounts with transcription capabilities for qualitative interviews. Compensation funds for active and passive control participants. Funds for a hold harmless account to cover loss of benefits. Letters of agreement with all HHS affiliated agencies to facilitate participants not losing any benefits they are entitled to and or already receiving at the time of enrollment in the program due to benefits cliff or other reasons associated with participation in the pilot program.
Okay, any thoughts?
Fine.
All right,
Recommendation for the city of Hartford to join the mayors of guaranteed income. I'm sorry, do you want me to keep reading?
yes, can you just take the first paragraph and then just so that everyone's aware, we're not going to go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because we took those directly from what was provided to us. So we can't edit that anyway.
All right. The task force strongly recommends the city of Hartford to join the Mayors for Guaranteed Income in order to secure necessary program design, implementation, funding, and other resources, as well as to tap into national expertise. Mayors for a Guaranteed Income is a coalition of 50+ mayors advocating for a guaranteed income to ensure that all Americans have an income floor. Member mayors have signed on to the MGI Statement of Principles, and they commit to, et cetera, et cetera. You can scroll down now. Program evaluation and methodology. Do you want me to keep reading?
Unless anyone wants to jump in.
All right, I know I can read quickly and speak quickly. So the task force recommends the collection of data from participants to evaluate 4 major areas of the pilot program. Recommended data collection methods and rationale for each area of evaluation are detailed below. Should we change rationale? I think we took out rationales.
Justification.
Yeah, no, but I think we took the rationales out even for space.
Oh, okay, then
Yeah.
take it out.
Is it one of those things where I should do the Control F rationale justification?
No, well, I don't know. I'm not sure.
No. Well, let's keep going from now.
But hang on, I have
These-
an important point. At the very top, we said each recommendation is provided with justification. So if that's not the case, we need to take care of that at some point.
Right.
Maybe.
Recommended data collection methods for each area evaluation are detailed below. I think we should just take out and rationale.
Yeah,
These areas were defined based on research questions the task force developed as drivers of the pilot project. In answering these research questions, the task force believes the Hartford UBI pilot program will be unique in its comprehensive approach and will be a model for future programs. 1, financial well-being. These measures would be collected from program participants. The task force recommends collecting the following data monthly, beginning at enrollment: household needs and budget, how UBI funds are spent, decision-making for use of funds, and total monthly income, savings, and debt. The task force recommends collecting the following data every 3 months, beginning at enrollment: changes in employment, efforts to change jobs, example, job searching, enrollment in school or vocational programs, etc. These measures would be collected with a combination of online or text message surveys, example, SurveyMonkey, and interviews conducted over the phone, on Zoom, via SurveyMonkey, or in person in a city office. 2, emotional and physical well-being. The task force recommends collecting the following data from program participants every 3 months, beginning at enrollment: standardized surveys to assess psychological distress, physical functioning, perceived distress, household food insecurity, and food inventory, and sleep quality. B, open-ended surveys to questionnaires to assess number of medical visits, ability to take medications, but not specific information about the medications themselves, social support, strains on time, self-care, and recreation opportunities. These measures would be collected with a combination of online or text message surveys and in-person or phone Zoom interviews.
Okay.
Anything
pause right-
so far?
Yeah, I was gonna say, pause right there. What do we think of the first 2?
I think they're fine. They were quick, but I didn't hear anything that stood out.
All right, let's go ahead and do 3 and
Else?
4.
3, caregiver, child, and family measures. The task force recommends collecting the following data from program participants every 3 months, beginning at enrollment: child report cards, school attendance, detention and suspensions, changes in after-school program activities, interactions between caregivers and children, questionnaires assessing the home environment, open-ended questions about how it feels to receive unconditional funds, open-ended questions about other reflections on involvement in this study. These measures would be collected with a combination of online or text messaging surveys and in-person or phone/Zoom interviews.
Before you do 4, because 4 is kind of long.
Yeah.
3, any thoughts on 3?
Well, my question is, where does the administrative data, whether we're getting administrative data from the Department of Labor or getting administrative data from the Department of Education, where is that going to go within this list of measures?
I would say detentions and suspensions, semicolon, educational administrative data.
That's good. And then under financial well-being, you need the same thing possibly if they can get DOL to come up with administrative labor market data.
No, that should be educational administrative data.
No, but
Sorry, I'm correcting the thing that he
the
just
3.
said.
I'm 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I caused distraction. I'll wait till this is done, but we do have to go back up to 1 for the same issue.
Yes, it should be a semicolon, I think, or a period after data before B. Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, semicolon, not a colon.
Oh,
All right. Now, Steve, what were you saying?
I was
Number
saying
1.
under 1, the same thing applies, that we might want to recommend that the State Department of Labor be requested to provide administrative data on labor market outcomes.
So we could make that C at the very end.
Yeah,
okay. So here's C. What do I do?
State Department of administrative data from the State Department of Labor.
but then
Right.
that
Make it a
won't,
D, make it D.
L.
but just a technicality that won't be collected from participants then.
Well, that was the general problem, both also in 3. That's the same
Oh.
problem everywhere, right?
I have an idea. At the very, very end of number 1, then we put a sentence. Additionally, we should
No.
get data from from the state or whatever.
Or we could just say from or about program participants.
Okay, what
And
am I
then
doing?
Steve, whatever you were gonna say right here.
What am I doing?
I think leave it all the same and then add the administrative data at the end. In addition, we recommend,
Oh, at the
because
very end.
at the end of financial well-being, you have 1 sentence on DOL data, and at
Yeah,
the
that's what I was
at the
suggesting.
end of section 3, you have 1 sentence on administrative data from the State Department of Education, because everything else flows naturally as data collection. And so you just add a single sentence at the end of financial well-being and a single sentence at the end of caregiver, child, and family.
Yeah,
Right. Steve, can you finesse this last sentence?
So it would be something like, so at the very end, you would say, under financial well-being, the last sentence would say, in addition to collected data, we recommend requesting educational administrative data from the State Department of Education.
No,
On-
the financial
Oh,
well-being.
so sorry, that would be 3. So sorry, in addition to directly collected data, we recommend requesting administrative data
No,
on on employment and earnings from the State Department of Labor.
Okay.
And then you could do the same thing under 3 with the exact same sentence, except it would be test scores, attendance,
Right.
grades from,
He's lost. David, just put from the Department of Labor. Administrative data from the Department of Labor.
Got it.
oh, you deleted data.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll fix it.
Mhm.
Collecting administrative data.
And do those departments need to be capitalized, DOL or DL?
And a period. No, of doesn't get,
Yeah. Sorry, I meant, yeah. Yeah, and then copy paste for
Yeah, copy paste it. And just
child,
change it.
family, and then it would just say Department of Education.
Perfect.
Do we need to specify State Department of Labor? I mean,
Yeah.
Good catch.
Fantastic.
Okay.
All right, are we good there?
Yes.
Okay,
Amanda?
let's do-
I can read my paragraph here. All right. 4, biological measures of chronic stress. The task force recommends collecting the following data from all household members every 3 months, beginning at enrollment. A, very small hair samples smaller than the width of a pencil to measure stress hormones, i.e. cortisol. B, saliva samples or cheek swabs. These measures could be collected by trained researchers at neighborhood sites or by participants via kits with detailed instructions that they could mail in. On the one hand, self-collection could increase participant involvement in these measures due to the convenience and privacy of collecting at home. On the other hand, reliability of sample collection may be somewhat diminished, parentheses, although detailed instructions should help mitigate this. And or participants may forget to send samples in, parentheses, although phone, text, and other reminders from the research team and the community point persons should help mitigate this. The task force recommends surveying participants during the application process to gauge the option most likely to yield participation in these measures. Note, a primary way that UBI and other financial freedom programs are hypothesized to improve emotional and physical health, school engagement, and the home environment is via reduced stress that results from financial security. However, no studies in the US to date have examined these objectives, we need to say. Oh, my bad. No, I got ahead of myself. Have examined objective biological measures of stress. Parentheses, self-reports of stress are subjective measures. Furthermore, the inclusion of these types of data have recently been explicitly called for by global experts who study the health impacts of UBI. In addition, chronic levels of stress hormones are associated with many health disparities, including risk for heart disease, anxiety, and depression. Measuring biological stress will provide much needed information on UBI's value as an upstream health intervention, and focusing on improved health outcomes, including via reduced stress, will provide policymakers with means to produce accurate cost-benefit analysis on UBI. Measuring stress hormones like cortisol non-invasively in hair and saliva samples is likely to be more acceptable to participants than blood draws. Additionally, cortisol in hair is a reliable biomarker of chronic stress because it measures cortisol that accumulates in the hair over the past several months. So I'm hearing a lot of that we already said in the beginning. And do we need it in both places? It's fine if we think we do. And I know I put it in both places. So I just question for the group, I guess.
I think this might be something they're least familiar with, which is why.
So redundancy is good here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
I think it's good. I mean, this is all new to me. And so reading this, I feel like I got a really good understanding of what.
Would you want to give me your hair sample?
I will give you my hair sample.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And at the end of this, if we still all have hair, I'll give you a sample.
I know. Yes. Okay.
This was very good though. I was grateful, Amanda, that, you were able to come up with a lot of this. And truthfully, I feel like this is one of the most exciting features of our UBI. Being able to, I'm blown away if we can actually do this.
Me too. And
Can I interject? It's 7:56.
yeah, we have, how much more do we have? Only just the last
Yeah,
bit, right?
we're almost
right?
done.
Yeah.
We're almost done. We're good.
Okay.
Who's
Do you
going to
want
read the end?
Do you want me to keep
Amanda?
reading or?
Amanda, go ahead.
For the quarterly, parentheses, each 3 months measures, the task force recommends collecting this data for an additional 3 to 6 months after distribution of funds ends to determine any longer lasting effects of the program.
It should be these data.
Yes, on the first line of that, yeah. Anticipated outcomes expected from the program. Decreased income volatility / increased financial freedom. Increased emotional well-being, parentheses, less depression, anxiety, emotional exhaustion. Decreased chronic stress, physiological and self-reported. Increased physical well-being, parentheses, less physical exhaustion, less need for ER or general medical care, greater adherence to medication regimens, improved diet. decreases in child behavioral issues, increases in parent-child time and types of parent-child activities, increases in school attendance and academic performance. For those with prior court involvement, decreases in activities that result in recidivism, attitudinal differences in terms of receiving unconditional funds versus, I feel like it should be VS, period, traditional benefits. And then get rid of the period at the end of that line. Improved employment outcomes, increased food sufficiency / decreased food insecurity, an increased, it should be on the last bullet, increased healthy behaviors that promote.
No, it's increase.
Okay, sorry, increase in health behaviors that promote long-term well-being, parentheses, promotion of long-term thinking.
Okay, any thoughts for the outcomes?
No, it's good.
All right, so Gina, can you just read the closing remarks?
Closing remarks. The task force wishes to take this time to thank the members of the Court of Common Council and the greater Hartford community for the opportunity to serve the residents of this great city of Hartford through our involvement in this important endeavor. We truly see this pilot as a transformative policy with potential implications across multiple generations and for addressing racial, gender, and other forms of financial inequity. We also wish to thank the Greater Hartford Legal Aid and members of the Guaranteed Income Community of Practice for their technical guidance during our research. For additional information on the composition and activities of the task force, as well as a list of potential funders and organizations for collaboration, please refer to appendices A, B, and C.
Okay, any thoughts on the closing remarks?
Lovely.
Can I go back to general design and the issue that Amanda brought up so long ago? And it's 1, 2, 3, paragraph 4. I want to add a sentence at the end of paragraph 4 of general design on the passive control group.
Oh, because it wasn't there.
Yes.
Yes.
Just the
Right.
second to last paragraph under general design, we need to say the passive control group will provide a low-cost way to add additional families for analyzing administrative data who do not have to be followed over time during the study period.
That do not need to be followed over time.
No,
Period.
overtime, 2 words.
Over time for what?
During the study period. Period. That's,
Yeah,
I'm happy for any edits, but I did want to
I
make
like
sure we got that in.
I like it.
Okay, any
And then,
other thoughts?
David, I don't know if you're gonna do formatting or whatever after the meeting, but I would just bump recruitment down to the next page. It really bugs me when there's a heading with nothing under it at the bottom. Yeah,
I would change, wait, stop, where are you? But that to and who,
at the sentence you just wrote.
yeah,
I don't,
We'll say
whatever you
one
guys
more
want.
time.
and who do not need to be followed over time.
Mhm.
Yeah, great. Wow.
Woo!
Go team.
And
Thank
the appendices, and Steve, good
Yeah.
catch, good making a note of that,
you for remembering that.
yeah.
Okay, I have to go.
Okay.
It was good to see
Yeah.
everybody.
Oh, wait, one last thing. Do we want to have information about who we are in the appendix?
I think yes.
Yeah.
Or
Good to
Can
have that.
everybody
transparency.
email David a very short blurb of who you are?
Yes.
How many words do you want, David?
I would say 1 paragraph, 4 to 5 sentences.
one paragraph, 4 to 5 sentences. Okay,
Yep, I'm gonna
Thank you.
put that underneath your name.
see everybody later.
Hey, bye.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
So David, when is this going into the council?
I have to submit this by Wednesday at noon.
Wow.
So literally in a day and a half.
Yeah, okay.
And then once this gets submitted to city council, it will be included in the council agenda, which immediately gets sent out to residents, members of the media, and all city officials.
For the what meeting? For meeting on what date?
The meeting of city council will be on the 13th of December.
Ah, okay.
Can you, have you hit save? Have you saved this document as you've been typing?
No.
Hit
Oh
the
my
save
God.
button.
Terrifying.
I have a
Done,
compulsion of
done,
hitting
done.
Command
It's-
S every 5 minutes.
Yep,
Or put your autosave on.
yeah.
Oh, it has been auto. No, it has been auto saving. I just.
Oh,
didn't-
your autosave says off.
Okay, all right.
Phew, okay.
Oh,
No, it's
auto-save
auto
is
save is
on.
off.
Your autosave is
Off.
off. Yeah.
Maybe.
Uh,
Um,
Okay, so, and the last question was, as we put in our 45 sentences for our little blurbs, I had suggested that we also have our credentials.
Yeah.
is that
I'm not, I don't want to, mandate anything. So you just send me what you want included under your name.
okay?
Okay.
Okay. Any
All
other
right.
thoughts on this? Oh, also the 5, so I do want those 5 to 6 research terms. And so I'll send that over to the group. And then if you can just send me like a 1 to 2 sentence definition, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay.
David, are we expected to be at the meeting on the 13th? I'm sorry if I didn't hear that.
No, so the city council will see this and it will most likely be referred to a committee.
Okay.
And then once that committee is chosen, I will let you all know what that date is, because task force members will be required to attend that meeting.
Okay. So that would be in the new year, most likely.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Anything else?
Sorry, when do you need our bios?
He needs
By
I mean,
Wednesday, yeah.
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep.
Stars.
All right,
Okay.
very
Okay.
exciting.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been quite the adventure, an amazing experience. I met so many wonderful people doing this work. I hope you all got as much out of it as I did.
Absolutely.
Definitely did. And I'm hoping for the best possible outcome.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very
thank
exciting stuff.
you, thank you,
thanks, everyone.
everyone.
Have a wonderful holiday, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.